I thought I would read an appropriate psalm from God's holy word. It is meaningful to me, and I hope it will be to you. I'm reading from the King James Version. There are many versions of the Bible, but I prefer the old King James Version. This Psalm 100. Make a joyful noise unto the Lord, all ye lands. Serve the Lord always with gladness. Come before his presence with singing. Know ye that the Lord, he is God. It is he that hath made all of us, and not we ourselves. We are his people and the sheep of his pasture. Enter into his gates with thanksgiving, and into his courts with praise. Be thankful unto him, and bless his holy name. For the Lord is good, his mercy is everlasting, and his truth endureth to all generations.
All right.
Between your handle and your hand. Glad you're here and I get to see you. I'm going to put this in the car.
Richard? Good to see you. I got it.
Good.
Them 32s I got.
Been there a long time. He was not engaged between one and engaged.
Nurse told her, she said, I don't have no salt. She said, I think that you ought to eat whatever you want. I don't think so.
I don't need this microphone on me anymore. I'm going to tell him to take it off of me.
You gonna make another speech?
No.
You better hold it with your hand and give me a water bottle, honey pie.
Excuse me, Jeff, did you want to take this mic off?
There's one thing that happens. Okay, would you like to pee? And then everyone go one way.
Good gracious. I told his husband and
It's in kind, or when you go back out here instead of taking a right to the left, like you're gonna go to the beach.
All right.
Honey,
And
I
you go through
walked
the kind of
10
community.
times.
Okay.
You gotta go. It is wonderful. Oh, this is the best time
The
of year.
cakewalk was as big as a football.
It is.
We put a picture together.
Yeah. Oh,
That'd be
listen, I've never missed
fun.
it. And
All
they
together.
have a haunted trail, and they get on the back of a tractor and they take the kids through.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Hi.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving to you.
At the McClellan Farm.
I reckon the tonnage rating would be on it.
Lily, go.
Sue, was this your tea? Sue, was this your tea? Falling down on the job.
Yeah.
Oh, you going to dessert first? No, I got you.
Yeah, but
But yeah, but he does it on the road. I do it. I do it on the treadmill. Did you get it?
Oh, see, I just couldn't. When I get home from work, I'm so tired. I just miss it. I'm on my feet all day long. I teach high school, and so I mean I'm up all day. I just don't want to. I don't want to do anything strenuous outside of school, and that's not strenuous.
He's posing for you, honey. He is. He's posing for you.
It's a good stress reliever too.
He goes to yoga to lower his blood pressure.
Yeah.
When she's doing a stand where you stand on your toe and this foot, then you link your finger around this toe and you pull your leg up
And how
like
old
that.
is she?
I've been trying to organize a 2-mile walk. I couldn't get any takers.
Like a drool
recording?
Yeah.
I didn't know.
I just wanted to get the shot of the kids running in there.
Oh, I see.
Way more complicated than it is, but coming out and going in, so emissions, it's helping the environment, so they last quite a long time, almost virtually no.
Oh, just sit here for a second.
Have a seat here. We gonna.
Who is the oldest person you remember?
We gotta go so
Like your great grandfather and all those people.
You mean the oldest person I remember is Miss, the lady that run the tower down at Camp Frank. She's 1 week two older than me. She married Pitts, you know, and he died. And she married Rollins. She was Rollins. She's the oldest one. She died just a few months ago.
What about your grandparents?
Huh?
Did you know anybody besides your granddaddy?
Well, I knew Uncle John Roberts and his sister that Irene Mell's mama was there. I knew them. Riley and Jesse Roberts, you see, was someone on my grandmama's side. There was Roberts.
Okay.
But on the Richard side, I don't know nobody except Uncle John and Aunt Miriam and Aunt Mitty and Mama, you know.
Didn't you tell me one time that Granddaddy sold this land in back of him to Aunt Miriam so she could be next door to her sister who was your mama?
What now? I didn't get the first part of it. Mama's...
Martha Knight can talk to her better than I can. She can hear her better than she can.
we're gonna have to run.
Let's see if we can.
Sheila's hard for me to understand.
She is. Did you go to the Frank High School?
Yeah, the grammar school and high school, but I never finished. I liked 2 credits, and I went to Bluntstown. I got married before I finished them up there. I liked 2 credits, so I never did finish high school.
How old were you when you got married? Who'd you get married to?
I ain't gonna tell you, nobody knows where we got married. Addie thinks she knows, because Ethel took me and Warren down to St. Joe and made an appointment, and we got married again, so had to be quit fussing and fuming, so they think we got married at St. Joe, but we was married several months before then, way younger. They don't nobody know.
Oh, it's a secret, huh?
Yeah. Mama and Aunt Mitty tried to run our affairs so Warren said we'll show her. But Ethel never did tell Hattie that she arranged that, so Hattie to quit fussing. So they all go by me getting married down there, because Warren never told, and I never did either.
When you lived here, did y'all have a lot of animals and sheep and stuff? Were you here when there was sheep, sharing sheep?
Well, I helped with Daddy with the sheep. You see, the no fence law come in, though, and he had to get rid of everything, you see. But he had plenty of hogs and cows and sheep, you see. So when he took that off, that took everything. Also, he had to get rid of everything, you see.
So in the heyday, he had a lot of them at one time, huh?
I don't remember when I was growing up. I can't remember all of it now. Artists can remember a lot of those things that I can't remember. I mean Hammond can remember. We set out them big oaks in front of the house like the one here. I went with Daddy down to, they called it, tree, a place that around the trees was there. He put a long tongue in the horse, in the wagon, take the body off and put it. I sat up there with him, and we went down there, and we set out all these clear down there, and that's the only ones living now. Every one of them was died except that one. And he got them long, you see, and we set them out. Now, I was little. He took me with him. And I stayed in the woods with Granddaddy Boney on a horse sitting on that little, he had a pillow there, and I was going to Scott's Fair with him to feed the cow, the hogs and all. I'd go with him so Mama could work. So Granddaddy Boney took care of me. They had a platform down there and had Daddy playing down there and Mal Kiner beating the straw. I danced between the legs there, and everybody gave me that chewing gum, the shines ones. So I danced with the chewing gum. I didn't have no better sense. But I didn't even come up to Daddy's knees hardly. I was so little.
Oh, you were just a child then, and you rode on the horse down there.
I was with my panties. He told Mama, she said, you better take her extra. She says, well, I guess I can tell Granddaddy when I got to go wee-wee. I never will forget him calling it wee-wee. And I stayed in the wood to hit, buy me something to drink down there. You didn't know what nothing was but a lemonade. That's all they sold down there. But I enjoyed being with Granddaddy Boney.
Was he a musician also?
Huh?
Was he a musician? Did he play the fiddle like Hilton did?
Yeah, Daddy played the fiddle on the little, it was just a platform, nothing but just a plank. Then everybody standing around and patting, and I can remember just as good, and Mal Kiner sat there and beat straw. Mama beat him if he played at the house and somebody there, well, Mama beat the straw. But see, Mal Kiner was Aunt Molly's brother, you see. Now, wait a minute, was he a brother or was he a son? I believe that was Aunt Molly. Aunt Molly's, Mac and Mal, which is Isra Splinter, was his son. Yeah, her first marriage, that's right. That's the best I can remember, it's been so long.
And then I understand that later on, you moved to Port St. Joe.
Uh-huh. Well, see, we lived in Lake City, and that's when he designed the plow, Well, we signed it over. He took a job with a paper company. We worked with the Florida Forest till it opened up. Then Mac come down with a truck and moved us from Densmore's to there at Uncle Ben's place of ours, Uncle Ben's place. And from there we moved to St. Joe.
And that's when your husband was working for the...
She was 15 years old when we moved down there.
And he was working for St. Joe Paper Company, is that correct?
Well, he was a paper company and a St. Joe. He worked for both companies. He run the shop down there to keep the stuff up keep the trees and everything, clear the land and all. But see, we lost we was getting a patent to the tree plow, and Master Wynn got a lawyer and had it taken over to him, and Warren wouldn't sit in court for Mr. Gibson to take it back to us, so we lost all that.
So Warren invented some kind of, what kind of plow was it?
The fireline plow that opened up firelands, just split trees and stumps open and go, which they give a demonstration in Lake City. There's over 500 different things that Warren's won first, and the Buffers won second prize. But Warren wishes a many times he had sat in court and got it back, because look what my youngins and grandyoungins would be. But he tried to get that out of somebody else, but he lost. So his wife only got half, lost his shop, everything. So Warren said, if he can live with it, we can live without it. So we never did. He never did, wouldn't go, but Gibson begged him, but he wouldn't do it. But St. Joe was good to him. But when Mr. Maloney died, they closed the shop. But we went up there. See, he overseed having that water built from the river to the mill, you see.
It's not the ones I bought for you.
Oh, he designed all that and oversaw it, huh?
Yeah, DuPont asked him if he could do it. He said, I don't know. Well, can I? He told him what he wanted. He said, well, I want you to try. He said, well, I'll try. He also owned up Silver Springs, too, you know.
Oh, tell us about Silver Springs. That's a famous attraction. What did he do there?
He cleared the lake where they had the boiling springs and had walks for people to go down there, and they lost several people going in there. But they wanted to clear it up for the boats to go out before it went out. And so he had a man working there. Well, he told one he wanted to do it once, and I don't work down. He says, well, you come try. Now, that was before his paper company was. And he said, I'll try. So he took his hands and went over there. And the man says, you go and do so-and-so. He called Mr. DuPont. He said, he tells me what to do. He said, you sit right there. He told the man to stay there. He flew from Jacksonville to Tallahassee. No, Lake City. I think it was Lake City. Anyway, yeah, no, he flew to Tallahassee to go to Silver Springs. And he told the man, here's your pay, get in here, don't ever come back. So Warren fixed that there. And that old big alligator, Sheila was sitting there on the alligator was there with Warren. He was swimming from the other side over, and the man was coming with him. He gave out. So she said, well, don't you die, Daddy. Don't you die, Daddy. Come on, Daddy, don't you die. He come across. And when they blowed up the stumps, the man there, a fish man, said, if you kill a fish, we're going to lock you up. He says, well, good, you sure can. So he fixed it, and when he blew the stump up to clear it, one tree light hit him on the outside, one of the fish. What happened? What happened? He said, it's none of your business. And Martin wouldn't tell the fish man or none of them what he done to keep them killing in the fish. So he cleared that all up there. But somebody killed the big alligator. He's still in the, they tell me now, in the, they what you call it, stuffed him in whatever you call that. And they tell me he's still there right on. And Sheila was a little old young.
Were you there when they dynamited the spring?
Yeah, we come there just before then, and he come home every night, you see. So me and her went over there 1 or 2 days with him. So we had to stay way back over him. But now they were on the other side of the lake, and where all the divers went on this side. They said that it used to be the Indians go down to get the water, but they lost several people going down and never did come back. They don't know what happened to them. They couldn't ever find them. So me and Sheila didn't get to go but a few times, but we would when he first started, before we started, and then once after then. But
let's talk about, were you born here?
Born here in Frank, right there.
You were born here at the house?
Right here at this place, yeah.
All right, let's talk about what that was like. Your earliest memories here at this house. Look at him. Go ahead and ask him.
Were you actually born right here in this house?
Yeah.
Well, what was it like? Do you best remember when you were small, living here?
I don't remember, I tell you the truth, because I remember things happened, but I don't remember when the first. Seemed like it was that I was glad to see artists, because he was the next one, you know. He was the next one, but I can't remember what it was. But see, I had to.
Daddy or grandpa?
Well, do you remember your grandfather? What was he doing?
Granddaddy Boney?
When you were here?
Oh, he helped take care of the cows and the sheep and all, and hogs in the woods. He had a buggy, you know. I rode in the buggy with a lot, and I stayed with him in the woods a lot. So I stayed with Granddaddy Boney an awful lot. I was his life, and he was mine, because he thought I had to be with him.
And what was Boney's dad's name? Do you tell me the family history?
above him? Where was his dad? Or at least the names. Can you get some names? Do we know the names of like her granddaddy? Like Bonus's dad? Do you know Bonus's dad's name? Or Bonus's granddad's name?
Bonus Tucker was named after Granddaddy Boney McClellan.
Look at him. Say that again. So, who did it go by? Who was Bonus's dad?
Huh?
Who was Bonus's dad?
Granddaddy Bonus?
Yeah. Who was
I
his
don't
dad?
know. I don't know.
Don't know.
I know Granddaddy Bonus' stepmother now. She was Elevation. She got everything when Uncle Gus died, because she married him, met him in Tallahassee at the court, and married him. So she got. That's why our Frank Church is under Leonard's name. She was supposed to make it over to the Frank community. Instead, she didn't. His granddaddy died, so he requested her when she sold it. So that's why they sold it. Leonard made it over to the Frank Church, because Granddaddy already gave it to us. But Elevation didn't make it over till after Granddaddy. She sold it, and she made Leonard promise to do it, so he did. And that church has been there now since I was 5 years old. The one just before this, and I was 5 years old. I wouldn't sit still when they sitting in the church. Mama took me out, got one of them oak limbs. Boy, when I come back in the house, I was dared to even sniffle. And I won't never forget it. I was 4 or 5 years old. And that church has been there. Now, it ain't been there 100 years, but it's been there. Let's see, I was 5 and I'm 99 now, so I don't know how old I was.
Tell her to give me a fond memory of her grandfather, father, and mother. You could ask them individually.
Well, do you have any fond particular memories about your grandfather, your mother, or your other family members when you were growing up here? Some special occasion or something?
Pick a story.
Pick a story or
about
something.
Your grandpa.
Yeah, tell us a story about Uncle Hilton. Or
About Daddy?
Yeah.
Oh, well, he always had to have a collar, dress and a tie on if he went out. He liked to dress up. My mama didn't. But now, we're back there when Aunt Molly was living on, you know, they had the big schoolhouse, brick schoolhouse. Well, Lily Dixon married Dixon, and they used to have big parties upstairs. Daddy played the violin. All of us young'uns danced on the stage. I was one of them, and Jewel Pitts, so many of us. They put on programs up there, and we had the biggest time. But then they tore down the school, and moved us all to Bluntstown. And I went to school at Bluntstown when I married Warren.
Now, rumor has it that Hilton made moonshine. Do you think that's just a rumor, or do you think it's true?
Well, he depended on somebody else. He'd go to the woods where they were, and he'd tell them he wanted a little bottle, and he'd put the money by the tree, and he'd pick the whiskey up and put it in his pocket. That's what he done. But now he made some of the old house next to the tenant, the Shiver lived in the woods, and Mama wouldn't let us go nowhere down there. So Daddy promised he wouldn't ever make no more, so he didn't. But now it was nothing for him to go in the woods now, go to this tree. He knew which one to go to. He wouldn't let me go now. I couldn't go with him if he was going to get whiskey. No, sir. You can't go. Granddaddy Boney never did. If he ever, I don't know if Daddy even drank when Granddaddy Boney was living. If Granddaddy Boney drank that. But now I do know when I stayed with Granddaddy Boney and Elevation, I had to wash the dishes. I stood on the bench, washed them, and she dried them because she wouldn't get her hands messed up. See? She wasn't going to be. That's why my thumb is like it is today. I like to cut it. Oh, she doctored it. Oh, but now she put a finally, she got something to put on. I had to wash the dishes just right on. Because, see, he didn't have no dishes. But I went to her home in Tallahassee, and she has a beautiful home there. But she died. I never did. She was supposed to make me some land over, but she never did. But I didn't need it.
Tell me about her mom.
Well, how about your mom? When you were growing up here, was she easy to get along with? That'd be Aunt Frankie, or wasn't it Aunt?
Well, she always had to wait on all the sick, deliver babies and all of her with no license and nothing. She's even delivered twins. And she always had to go and clean houses and all. But later on, they did make mattresses for everybody in the county. Something donated the cotton, and she made them. Murphy can tell you it's between the church and Murphy's house, and out there, the little place. I went there with Mama. Now, I paid for mine, because I didn't live here. I didn't live here. It was just for the county, and I wasn't here. So she made all them for the county. I still got it. It's down yonder, Mama's, and the trailer that Gary gave me to put my stuff in. I got a bunch of stuff there. I got a feather mattress and that mattress still there. And I got a wool mattress that Mother and I made. They didn't want you to put a black wool in. Well, Daddy wouldn't do it, but Uncle Gus would, So Daddy taken out, me and Mama washed it and carded it, and I took it a bunch down and made a mattress. I still got that wool mattress. That wool, if he'd have sold it, it got over $100 out of it because it's expensive. But he wouldn't slip it in like the rest did, we had a loft. Well, we had this big sack. He'd nail it up there. I'd get up there and put it in there and pack it down, and they'd pull it and shake it, and I'd get in and rake it in for them because I was little and I could do it. So we didn't ever put no black wool in now. That's the reason why I got the wool mattress.
Oh, it's the black wool.
It's black, yeah. And warm, oh my, it's warm.
Well, did you have a garden or grow crops?
Oh, yeah.
Or mostly just animals?
We always had the garden. I did the plowing. Me and Artis did the plowing. Hattie did the cooking and wash there. I had to dry the dishes, but she done the washing them. But now she kept house. That's the reason I can't keep house today. I never was taught to keep house. Now you get me out in the barn to feed it, share the sheep or help castrate or anything. I was right there to sew up. One time Daddy had a hog in the pen and he was up like this and he done split up Daddy's arm. It was bleeding. I said, "Oh, Daddy, what you gonna do?" And there under the shelter he had a little kit. It had a needle in it. And he went there and took it down there. "Come in," called one of the dog. I can't remember. Licked off the blood off. He pulled the hair off of old Maud's tail, stabbed it, and I sewed up his arm right there. I didn't have no better sense, and I sewed his arm up with that. Now talk about trying to tie a horse's hair. Now that's something. Me doing it, and him just one hand. I thought I'd never get it done. But could you believe me sewing up in there? But he told me to do it, so I done it. I didn't know no better. Wasn't nobody to do it. Mom was at the house.
How far was the closest neighbor? How near was the nearest neighbor?
Uncle Gus and Aunt Jane, Aunt Molly, and well, they all made right around. You see, Daddy give each one 80 acres or 40 acres. And so Daddy bought where Aunt Mary used to live, he mortgaged it off because it's old and let it go, so that's why we didn't get no more land than we got. And see, Uncle Gus was living over there, in Victoria.
What was it like? Ask her what it was like without any electricity. How'd you take baths?
Okay, so when y'all were growing up, you didn't have electricity, of course, right?
No, we had the first, Martin and I had the first electricity put in here and the phone in here for Daddy and Mama.
What year?
Yeah.
What year was that? Do you remember?
I don't remember.
So when you were young and growing up, How did you take a bath? Did you use the pump on the porch?
We had a wash tub. We'd take it out and get it warm and take a wash tub. We'd use a wash tub as our bath, and Mom would wash us. And then Artist fixed a shower there next to where the wash bench was, where the wash, and then the pot was out here where we had to build a fire to wash the clothes. Well, sometimes we'd fix it with water and put in the tub, but when Artist made us a shower, put planks on each side and put a tub up there and that's where we took a shower. Then they finally built onto the house, They built that back room on while I was in Lake City. When Warren was designing the house, Sheila was just 2 or 3 years old. So that back room's been put on a long time, but he put the bathroom in, Artist did. That's the reason Hammond wouldn't take the place. See, he was supposed to get the place. He said, no, Artist is into us, so give it to him.
So that was after you had electricity then, you had a real pump when they put the bathroom in?
Granddaddy Richards put down the pump for him, and we had to have a valve dig down in it because it was deep, and we had to dig down and made a thing and something there to draw the water to get it. That's why it's so hard to get water here. In other words, it went through the top of the house right there where he got the water. But now at the barn, that was the coldest water. Go out there and pump that for them horses. That was just as cold water as you'd want to drink. You put in a glass and sit there and it'd sweat. It was so cool.
So you had another hand pump down at the barn?
Oh, yeah, at the barn.
The water troughs, huh?
Yeah, down there, and then water trough right back counter there to come to the house. There's spigot there.
Was that your job to go down and pump the water for the animals?
We tied old Barney out one time. We was going to come back, and he had wrapped it around his hoofs and fell there nearly dead. Daddy was going to kill him. I said, no, you're not. No, you're not. I begged and pleaded. He let me doctor Barney. From that day on, Barney was mine. I drove Barney wherever I wanted to go. I could use Barney. I didn't use Sally or Maud. I used Barney. And that horse knew me every time I'd come to the barn. He'd go to a quicker, and I'd take and love him. But I doctored his, and I could make him lay down for me to doctor his feet. They'd almost cut him off, with him. He was trying to get water to draw, because we had him on the side the pump was, and water was inside. I never will forget it. At the time, I sure did beg and plead. Daddy sure didn't want to get shut in, but I sure wouldn't let him. I was the only one could ride a horse standing up without just holding to the rein. None of the boys couldn't. The McFarland and the Tuckers and all of them, and none of them, Gus's, none of them couldn't ride it. And they were so jealous of me because I was little, and I'd put my foot up in, and I rode
with no saddle. Now you was riding?
No saddle on it, one on the hips and one on the front, and I rode to the house and back, and let her just go. Coming back, I let her get on that, what they call trot or pace, and Maud could do it. Now I couldn't do that on Barney. Barney was too, his feet were still stiff. He couldn't do like that. But I enjoyed the horses. But Barney was mine then. But we plowed in, oh gracious.
Did you do the actual plowing behind the horse?
Oh yeah, I plowed all the time. I even plowed after I got married. One of my old boyfriends would come to Mama and say, "Why'd you let her out there plowing and her with her husband?" I said, "'Cause she wants to."
Oh, you didn't mind plowing?
Oh, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the horses because they knew when to stop and when to go. When it was breaking land, Barney knew just as good when he got to the end, so I wouldn't have to pull it back to take another. Yeah, I enjoyed it. Hattie done the work at the house, and I done there with Artist was one. Of course, Hammond was little. He didn't want nothing but a dress. We had a time ever getting him to wear even a pair of pants.
Well, there he comes. We better not tell that story while he's this close to us.
Huh?
Said, there he comes. We better not tell that story.
No, no.
What about Dan was telling you guys had a smokehouse here, right?
Oh yeah. You had for your food preservation. I'm assuming you butchered your hogs and your animals, and you smoked all your own meat. Is that correct?
We killed our own hogs. We had the kettle where we made this cane syrup, and we put hot water, and put sawhorses and planks across, and put them in and take them in and scrape them off. Then when we got them washed and clean, we hung them up, gutted them, and then run through everything, wash the guts, put the sausage in, and done all that. And if we ever killed a beef, we always cut it up and smoked it too, you know. So the hog was the main thing. When we'd smoke it, after we get it soaked down in that salt, take it out and wash it, hang it up and smoke it. Then when you're going to get it smoked, you take it back down and you wash it and dry it off, cut it in places or slice it. Aunt Duck always made us slice hers, but now Daddy let us cut it in strips, you know, pieces enough for a mess. And we put it in there and then melt the lard and pour it over it so it went all through, and you just go there and take some pieces you wanted.
How long did it take to smoke the meat to get it where it preserved?
Well, the best I can remember, it was 2 weeks or sometime, according to how the weather was now. If it's good and cold and all, and we didn't just use old rotten wood. Daddy had some kind of oak, or some kind of oak with he'd go in the woods and get, and we'd put a little piece of that in, and it'd give it a little bit of a better flavor, he said. Now, Aunt Duck and them use pecan. They use a pecan from their trees to smoke theirs. I helped Aunt Duck put theirs where he raised, she kept her money.
In the smokehouse?
In a fruit jar under the house where the chimney was. Me and Nettie had to go bury it, and when she wanted to take it up, she wouldn't let none of her folks down, but I had to come go with Nettie. She put it in that old dining table. She had a big dining table. She laid that cloth down and put it on there, and then she put the paper on it. Where she got the paper, I don't know. But anyway, then she put another tablecloth on it. And then after that, then she put a sheet on it. She pinned that all the way around now, mind you. Then she'd put another tablecloth on. Nobody knew but me and Nettie knew where that money was. Now, why she trusted me all the time, I don't know. But I was always got to be right there. Uncle Bannon called Hilton, stand else over here hollering certain hollers that knew what it wanted. Of course, Daddy knew what Aunt Duck wanted, you know, but now none of the rest didn't know. So Daddy'd get me on the horse and we'd go through. We didn't go around, we went through the woods. And I'd go and help Nettie and hear her put up that meat. We put some in fruit jars, some of us in lard cans, you know. I did a lot of that. Oh, boy. I helped a neighbor. And Nettie, long as she lived, she didn't forget it, I'll tell you.
Well, what kind of crops were you actually growing? You did the plowing. What were y'all planting?
We had a little peanuts, but it was corn and old stinging butter bean. What's called it? What's them beans that stings that grows up on it? What you call them?
Not okra.
What's them beans that grows up long? Oh, any other time I could have called it. Well, we had that, but now we took the fodder off, cooked the fodder and put it in, made fodder and had that for the horses, you know. Back then you didn't cut grass and made hay. You use that fodder off of the corn, you know.
Oh,
but now
what did you dry the shucks, or how did you prepare them for the horse?
When it got dry, we'll stick it between the ear of corn. That when it got dry, we'd go there and get and tie it, you know, in the middle, and then take it and put it in the back of the. He'd put part of the horse thing with a stay in there, and he'd put all that fodder back there, and we feed that so much of it to the horses as they needed it.
Tell me about what it took to get to town back in those days.
Okay, when you were young, how did you actually go to town? Was Bluntstown the nearest actual town?
Well, I went with Granddaddy Richards most of the time. I can't remember going, but with one time with Dad. And he bought all of the Boggses. The people that run the Boggs bought the place. He bought the pony and the little buggy, and I don't know what all he bought. I went with him that day, and that's the only time I can remember going to Bluntstown. I never got to go anywhere, you know, like that. But that's the only time that I can remember is when Daddy bought all that stuff they were selling there. I forgot the names, who it was selling there. It was kin to the McClellans, so.
How long did it take?
How long did it take y'all to get from...
Huh?
How long did it take you to get from here into Bluntstown on the wagon?
Oh my gosh, I don't know. And when we went with Granddaddy Richard on his old buggy through the woods, Lord, it taken hours and hours. Nothing but a seat to sit on. It was, and little arms and bare little back. And then an old little piece back there for us young'uns sit on, 80, and Mom and Granddaddy sit on that.
Well, how did you get across the rivers? Were they bridges?
Well, see, we was on the other side of the river. Granddaddy Richards is on the other side, you see, at Abe Springs.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so we'd go from there. But
if you were over here and wanted to go, was there a bridge to get across into Bluntstown? Or from here, how did you get to Bluntstown?
Well, I don't remember crossing the bridge when I was little at all, but I remember this creek down here that Daddy and Aunt Jane's son, Pete, had to carry us across the walk because the creek was too high. It was over the bridge and to school, so we walked from here to the school, you see. But I actually got the brick school, then they had the bus so I could ride. I was able to walk then, but they had us, and so I could ride then.
Oh, so they actually had a bus come and pick you up here?
Yeah,
to school?
Yeah. When we went to Bluntstown, they pick you up. You had to meet and pick up then and take you to Bluntstown. But I stayed with Hattie when I went to school out there with her every week and come home to there to Mom and Daddy's during the weekend. But I didn't go very long before me and him got married. He said, you can go to school, but when I got married, he wouldn't let me go another day. No, sir, no more school.
Ask her what's the secret to being here 99 years.
Well, what's your secret? You're 99 years old. You got any special things you do to stay young and beautiful?
Well, the only thing I can say, I tried to take exercise and eat and not overdo it, but sometimes I did anyway. But I don't know, I guess it's just the Lord taking care of me. He got me here for some purpose, I don't know what it is.
Well, he still wants you here, doesn't he?
Well, I told him, I was put here for something, but I don't know what it was. I ain't found out yet. Maybe I'll find out before I die. It don't matter. They won't know. I said, I want to be buried. I don't want to be cremated.
What message does she have to the younger generations coming up, like the kids that are running around here now? What message does she have to them?
Well, you see, we have a number of small children and young children here today.
Well,
Would you have a special message for them?
Well, when Mary Smith run the tower, I kept all her kids' hair cut and taking them to Sunday school. Sheila and all of us, I took all the kids because she had to stay up there. So that was my weekend to cut everybody's hair and take the young ones to Sunday school. But I enjoyed it. That was just fun for me because it was there. And Sheila had a pony, and of course they all like to ride, you know.
Ask it again a different way.
Do you have a special message for the children that are here today? Any special message? You as a 99-year-old person almost survived a century here with us. Do you have a special message or anything that you'd like to say to the younger generation that they might get some special advice or anything for the younger generation?
Well, I just want to never be cremated. I want them to live a true life, and I want them to do unto others as they have them do unto you. And that's one thing you got to do. If you don't, you got to ignore a lot of things that you'd like to say. Better keep your mouth shut. But anyway, the best thing to do is just try to get along with everybody and let them get along with you. And I try to do, and I try not to interfere with their business, whatever they go, they do stuff. I find it out. It hurts when you're sick, don't let me know, but still, I'm just thankful that I'm here that they can depend on me. Because I depend on them right on. Since they don't drive, I got driving license 106, and the sheriff told me, said, Miss Elcher, you can drive, but says, now, you can drive, but says, what's other people gonna do? I says, well, that's it. I don't wanna hurt nobody, so I'd rather not. So I told him, well, I just wasn't gonna drive, so I don't drive. I haven't driven any since my birthday. I ain't drove a bit. Well, I do back my car up and put it in the shelter like I wanted, or drive it around the back and wash it or something, but I don't drive at all.
So you haven't driven since you were 98, is that correct?
I drove while I was 98, but I haven't drove since I was 99. I haven't drove since September. Might have been, Sheila, was it before September that I quit driving? Just before September I quit driving.
Now I understand that you passed the driving test at 98, and how long is your license good for?
106. I was supposed to be 106 when I not driving. I got licensed that long. I said, now what good is that? What's good is that?
That's because she's never been pulled over.
But I took my test. I made above the average of any of the ones that he had to give the examination the day that I took. I said, I want to see if I'm driving or got the rules right. I took everything he gave me. He said I made 99, where he didn't have another person that whole day that he made 98. So I made me feel good. But I said, no, you got to drive somebody else's car now, not just yours.
Have you ever been got a ticket for speeding or
yeah,
any of that
yeah,
stuff?
yeah.
Had any serious accidents?
I got a speeding from Clarksville to Frink. I went around the car to get around him too fast, and they stopped me, but it didn't cost me nothing.
You talked them out of it?
Yeah, I talked him out of it. I said, well, how do you think I'm going to get around him? I can't get, he's saying every time I slow up, he slows up, I want to go around him. I start to go around him, he'll go fast. And he admitted it was true, too. And they stopped me going from there at Clarksville to that bridge. Car was ahead of me, and it wouldn't move, and I just stayed behind him because I wouldn't go around him and stayed behind him. He thought I was something wrong with me. He stopped. Oh, I'm so sorry, Miss Elsie. I didn't know that was you. I wouldn't have stopped you for nothing. I said, well, he wouldn't let me go around him. He wouldn't speed up. He speed up. If I tried to go around him, and I said, that's the reason. So that's the second time. But I didn't get no ticket. I told him that, well, I wasn't going to try to go around him, did I? I had to take the ditch to the other side, and I wasn't going to do that.
Were you ever in any serious car accidents?
No, the only thing in Dothan when Sheila was a little girl, I was going in town, and they stopped them, and I stopped, but the car hit them and backed into me, and that they called it. I run in him, but they backed into me because the lady finally got out and told the police, says, well, I backed into her. She didn't run into me. Said, I backed into her. And I thought that was something awful, but gracious, my bumpers didn't even to show on it, much less her either, because the bumpers hit, you see.
So you never had a serious accident, and you've been driving for how many years? How many years have you had a driver's license?
When Perry McFarland was a little boy. Now, how old is Perry McFarland? He's been dead for years. How old is Perry Jr.? It's when Perry McFarland was a little boy, right down here in this creek, he stalled his car and couldn't crank it. He went back and got his son and come to the house and got me, taught me how to drive that car out of that watering ditch there, and I've been driving ever since.
Was that like a Model T or a Model A or something? What kind of car was that?
It was, well, it wasn't just, it was just a piece of a car, I call it, because there wasn't much there. But did you know he got back on me, and I cranked up, and he told me how much to do, and I started driving that day on. Hattie got so mad because they wouldn't teach her. She wouldn't go with him, help him get it out. She said, come on, you can go ahead. No, I'm not. She wouldn't go, so I went. He told me, and from that day on, I've been driving. Perry June was a young boy, wasn't even thinking about getting married. I don't know how old he was, don't even remember. But I've been driving ever since. You see, at St. Joe, I kept a physical ed teacher and a driving education teacher, little girl. I got him to teach me everything could be about driving. Down there, I won first when any of the ever took a test. I won the highest. I didn't ever let him know up at lunchtime, but I didn't want him, but I won. He said, you can park in the smallest place of anybody that I've ever taught, and I've been teaching for years. I kept the little girl though, but he sure taught me. It didn't cost me nothing, you see.
You got a message for the family?
Well, do you have any particular message for the family?
I just hope and pray we can all be together again another year, and I'm here to enjoy it if I am, but if I'm not, y'all just have a good time without me, because I enjoyed it, but I was being late today, but I couldn't help it. Patricia couldn't help it either, but that boy was tired. Something he had to stop. I don't know what he done, but we made it on the end. Right. I let him take my car come on this morning. I got good neighbors, so.
Well, just wait till they get up behind you, and I'll just have a look at the camera and say I love you all.
Wait a minute.
It's been wonderful today, hasn't it?
It sure has. It's been very pleasant.
I probably got 50 on here. So
now,
okay, we're gonna do our wrap.
Yeah.
I just paid a fortune. But.
You want to just tell the family that you love them?
Okay, we're gonna finish up and just look at the camera.
Okay.
And tell everybody that, you know, I love you and I hope to see you again. Or a special little message. Look right at the camera. This is what we're all going to remember you by. So say something nice about us, even though it may not be true.
Well, I don't know what.
Just say you love. Say I love y'all or something like that.
What?
Just say that you love us and...
I love every one of you all. Just so special to me. My family is so special. Special to him and his wife. When he was going to her, I thought there wasn't nothing. Someone said, oh, I don't know where we're going to be like her. I said, I do. I think the world over, and I have ever since, and all of them. And I am just thankful for everyone, you know. Just that I can't see y'all as often as I'd like to, but y'all could come to see me.
All right.
Well, Uncle Hammond?
Hold on a second. Now you're going to look at him instead of the camera, okay?
Okay. Now remember, I can't hear very good, so I may have to. I may have to re-ask you.
That's fine. But the first thing I want you to do is say your full name and tell me what year you were born, okay?
Okay.
Do it. Look at him.
Well, Hammond, thank you for coming today.
Francis Hammond McClellan, born August the 30th, 1917, 2 o'clock p.m., Frank, Florida.
Well, how old does that make you today?
94.
94 years young.
Yeah.
Were you born in this house?
Yeah, I was born, you go in the door, the main door in the right-hand corner, and the bed sit this way now, and now it's sitting this way. And all of us kids all 6 of us was born in that bed with Mom. That was Mom's bed. Now, as memory begins, I was in the opposite corner near the fireplace. That was Dad's bed, and when I was a little kid until I was, 10, 12 years old, I slept with Dad. In the other corner of the big room, that was Elsie and Hattie's room. And of course, before I was born, they had added the front porch where, as you go in the right, where the bathroom is, that used to be Artis's bedroom. And that, of course, then he left, and in I was about 16, we built that back room, back of the big room. That was a window in the center. We built a room there, and a room to the side of that, back of the bathroom, wasn't there. Years later, one of what was the name of the people over there near the Grahams? Anyway, Birch. He was here visiting, and he built that room on. And of course, in first, I'd say 10 or 12 years of that house, Mom cooked on a fireplace. That's kitchen and dining room wasn't there. And the room behind that was also added later years. Like this bedroom in back of the bathroom now, that wasn't there. There's no house there. And incidentally, where the end of that house is now, used to be a fence. Went from this corner here all the way to the barn, a straight fence, and there was a peach orchard out behind that. So, but as I say, all of us kids were born in that same room, and we had the same, what you call a person that delivers the kids?
Midwife.
Yeah, midwife. Miss Lewis, up there just before you get to Clarksville. The old house is gone for now. And incidentally, see, 17 now, go back to another one. In 1917, I was born, and I was called a World War I war baby. Now in 43, my oldest daughter, Elaine, was born, and that was a World War II war baby. So that's a bit of the history of back down there. And of course, want to go a little further on, I spent 4 years and 5 months and 8 days during World War II in the Coast Guard. I spent 3 years just about 20 miles from where the well blew up in southern Louisiana a few years ago. I lived there in a community and was stationed there 24 hours a day. I learned how to cook crabs, Cajun style.
So before you went into the military, did you actually go to school here in Frink?
What, before I went in the military?
You went to school, the Frink School. Did you go to the Frink School?
Oh, I graduated from Grange Frink School in '36. And I left there and went to Bluntstown for a few months and come back and help Dad shear the sheep that year. Then I went into CC camp, and they sent me all the way to California. I stayed over there for a while, came back here, and I worked at a grocery store in Bluntstown for a while, and then I went to CC camp at Wilma for a year. From Wilma, I went to a CC camp in Miami, and I stayed in a camp there for a year. Then I got out and got me a job, and I lived there, and then when the war came along, I immediately, the day of Pearl Harbor, I wrote in and got an application to join the Coast Guard. And on the 12th day of January, the papers came back, and that same day, back then you were drafted for a year and a day in the service. and I got a letter from them said greetings. The other letter said report to Jacksonville for a physical to get in the Coast Guard. So the one that said be drafted said January the 14th, and that was the 12th. So I got busy and went to Jacksonville, got the physical. They sent me from Jacksonville to Nashville and at 11 o'clock on the 14th of January, I was standing in the Federal Building in Nashville, Tennessee, holding up my right hand, being sworn in the Coast Guard. And looking up on the wall, there was a clock. About the time I said I do, the clock was on 14, 14. And so I went to sort of jiggling myself, and I said, gee, thanks. And the guy next to me, he said, what happened? I said, right now I'm supposed to be in Miami to be drafted in the Army, and I'm sure glad I'm here. I'm not in the Army, I'm in the Coast Guard. And then they sent me to New Orleans, and I spent the whole war in Louisiana. I never got out of the state the whole 4 years, 5 months, and 8 days.
So in 1936, when you graduated from high school,
36.
Did you have electricity in the house?
Oh, yeah. When I was 15, now that was 4 years earlier, as the first electricity. And at that time, Pete McFarland, he put screens in the house, the first screens that had ever been put in the house. They had, well, this window, this side of the chamber here, now it had a glass in it. The rest of them was just shutters, wood. In other words, you was in there, you was in a dark house. There's no, and, but the little room behind the kitchen, that room, now has been leaded, I'd say, 20, 30 years ago. And somebody else come in here and added that on to it. Just like I go in there just now, the house inside ain't the same anymore. I mean, everything's been recovered, refinished, because I remember laying in the bed there and looking up through the ceiling and see the moon. So that's a part of the story. But the memory of all that there is the fact that we were happy, aggravated, disgusted, wanted to get out of here. Now that's natural. Young folks are stuck back in a place like this. All we could look forward to was work. We got from school. We got to in. I had to get in. The first thing I got out from school, I had chores to do. Right on up till dark. In the morning, first thing I got up, I had to go out to the barn and feed the horses and get ready for school. And then, of course, when the first 5 or 6 years I went to school, I had to walk all the way. And, of course, have you seen the picture, or either of you seen the picture of the old wooden schoolhouse? There was 2 rooms, and it was a T. And the first 2 or 3 years I went to school in that, and the big building, big brick building, it wasn't even there. And then I went to that school all the rest of the way through. And as I say, I graduated in May in 1936.
Tell me about
Is that enough story?
Tell me about your parents, your grandparents.
What?
Give me some stories about your parents and your grandparents.
Oh.
Yeah, tell us about your father, how he was to work for, and just.
Oh, Dad. Dad was. Everybody loved him. He was one of these lovable kind of people. He'd give the shirt off his back to you if you asked. Well, incidentally, we had an organ sitting in this corner once. After later years, and an old pedal organ. Somebody come along one day and was admiring it and said, I'd sure love to have that. And Dad said, you can have it, take it with you. That's the kind of guy he was. He'd give his shirt over his back, didn't matter. I mean, and anybody come by here and it was eating time, you better eat, didn't he? He got, one day a salesman come by here and it was eating time. Mom, they were out here somewhere in the porch, and she says, "Come on, Hilda, you guys, and the dinner's ready." And Dad said, "Come on, let's go eat." He said, "No, oh no, I've got it. I can't eat here." Dad said, "Whoa, wait a minute. You too damn good to eat at my table?" "Oh no, I'm sorry, sir. I'm sorry, sir." He said, "Well, come on, let's go eat dinner. You're at my house, you eat with me." Another incident is at that same table. We had somebody come over, and Mom had a big pot of peas. Well, the guy didn't like peas. Of course, we didn't know this till later. And Dad and them was having, of course, Dad was quite a drinking man. And he'd, "Come on, have some more peas." No, Mr. McClellan, I don't want more peas." "Oh, yeah, come on, have some more peas." He couldn't eat anymore, and he'd rake them up in his front end, push them down onto the table because he couldn't eat no more. And Dad was insisting that he eat them peas. That was the kind of guy he was. And two, he was an expert stockman. He'd take an old puny horse, cow, or sheep, whatever, and they're about ready to die, and in a few weeks you wouldn't know him. Now, we had a horse, Barney, going down. He started shedding his coat. He got puny. Well, somebody, one of the Nicholses up in car, had a gadget for bleeding a horse. It was an instrument made here, and it had a little rounded blade. And he come down to bleed Barney. He tied a rope around Barney's neck, and immediately this vein in his neck come up big. He laid that blade on there. It was like a knife blade here, but it had a rounded thing here about a ½ inch big. He laid it on that artery, and it had a hickory stick, like a part of a hammer handle, a little bigger. And he hit that, and he cut in there, and the blood squirted out. And about the time that horse had bled about a gallon, he started stumbling, and Mr. Nichols snatched the rope off his neck. He quit bleeding. He took then, out of his purse, pocket up here, a needle. He went there, and that gash he cut there, he took that needle and he sewed up and down in that gash. No, it was crossways because he cut it this way. And went and cut a piece of hair out of the horse's tail, and he wrapped it around that, looped around the end of the needle sticking out. He looped it around and around and around and around. That'll run out of nothing loop, left it. And he said, "Don't worry about that. He'll lose that at proper time." And then on the ground, there was, I'd say, a gallon of black blood. Seemed, where in the world did the black blood come from? Within a week, you wouldn't know that horse. He come out of it, he shedded all of his hair off, he got fat, and he lived another 10 years. Now, that was the kind of a person Dad was, and he'd go to any extreme to save a animal's life or doctrine. Like back in those days, there was an epidemic of screwworms coming here from Texas. And them son of guns, a tick would bite the ear, and of course a tick, old big-bellied tick, when he busts, he's full of little ticks. Well, when they'd bust, the screwfly would lay his eggs in there, and regularly you'd have the sheep's ears eat off. I've seen the skull, that much of a sheep's skull, with nothing, just his plain skull, where they was eating it off. Well, he had back then called benzene. You pour that in there, and it immediately they all died. And they now screwworm only eat live flesh. They didn't eat dead like a maggot. And directly you wouldn't know that. And we got every sheep we had. We must have had 1,000. We went through every one of them, and every one of them nearly had screwworms in the ears. We lost a half a dozen probably in the whole flock. And
You had 1,000?
yeah, at that time we had about 1,000 sheep. And that was, his biggest thing was that, now as a farmer, Dad, his theory of farming was his daddy, my granddaddy. And he said, Granddaddy done it this way. And I was taking agriculture at school. Ted Penvarvis at Alta, he taught at Alta in our school every weekday. And he's teaching us how to grow something and save, you know, and not do it usually. And I tried to talk Dad into that. No way. No, my daddy done it this way and we're going to do it that way. So I did it that way in 37. I helped him make the crop and I left. You better stay here. Yeah, no, Dad. You and I don't G horses. You get somebody else to do your work. For example, right there is a machine that cost Dad tons, not tons, but gobs of money. Because every time before we got ready to start a crop in the first of the year, we went out there and first I had to take a hoe and chop each corn stalk loose from the ground. Then I took that rake and raked it all up in a pile and then set it afire and burned it. The humus that should have been plowed under was burnt, and that ashes there wasn't worth nothing. So what little fertilizer we had that we put on the crop wasn't enough to get it started, much less to grow corn or anything. So we tried to farm 20 acres, and if we'd put all that fertilizer on 5, we'd have made 10 times the amount. But that wasn't like Granddaddy did it.
Would you consider him a cowboy? I mean, would you?
Oh, cowboy. Oh, gosh, he was a cowboy. He had old Sally. Now, she was a true cow horse. He had a whip, about 10 foot long. It had a short handle on it. Pop it. And one day, and she was so trained that we was driving a bunch of cows and an old Orney when it was going to take off. Dad didn't have to steer her over there. She went over there and she kept him just the right distance for him to beat her, that whip. A few licks of that, she come back in the herd and she stayed there. And I've seen, now Sally had a colt when I was 12 years old. She had a colt. And he was so trained that when he'd go out after the cow, I've seen him open his mouth and try to bite the cow. Get your ass back in there, you know what I mean? But Dad, from here to Uncle Gus's place, to the river, all the way to Scott's Ferry, all the way to Cypress Creek, and then up the road, all that area in here was owned by, I don't know who, at one time, but back then you could bought it for $1 an acre. They'd cut all the trees off. It wasn't nothing but land, I mean. And that's where we had our trees. And then, of course, one day, no fence law. We had to get our sheep off the land, because then you had to fence your sheep in, and that sort of ended. And by that time, Dad was old enough, though, he wasn't able to take care of them. He had sheep right on up till he died, though, yeah. But his main thing, let's go a little further now. Granddaddy Richards across the river, a couple of miles, like the bird would fly, he was a true farmer. He had cucumber's, sand spurs, coffee weeds, and what was them old beans that looked like a tick? They fed the cow. You couldn't hardly beat them one open with a hammer. Now he had those all over the field, and he would go out there in December. He had a big turning plow, a 12-inch turning plow. He had 2 big mules. He had that plow set where it went 12 inches deep. On the end of the beam of the plow, he tied a chain. And that chain was long enough, it come down in the fur that was plowed before, in there, and all of the corn stalks. And incidentally, before he done that, he went out and he had a corn stalk cutter. He cut all the corn stalks up in little pieces. and that chain would wrap around all that grass, which was about that high, and roll it down and plant it at 12 inches deep. And believe it or not, that chain would just roll around that, drag around that roll of grass and cover it up. Then the 1st of March, he'd go in there with a middle buster, plant a row, put his crop in there. And in any place he didn't have enough cucumber or sand spurs or velvet beans, that was velvet beans, he would plant it in there. Now, Dad, if it was a cucumber, sand spur, anything like that in the land, you found one, you stopped right there and you dug that up and you took it and burned it. He filled the barn full. And I know it, that was a work job. We'd go over there and corn picking time. He had a big wagon, them 2 big mules. It was 3 feet deep, you know, big 2-horse. It carried a load. He'd go along there and he'd pull up about 10 feet and you'd pick, and pick that, wading through those cucumbers, sand spurs. In there, it was a job just to get through there. You had your wrist here taped up. You had your collar buttoned to keep the dust off of the velvet beads. And we'd clean up. Well, that truck, that wagon, big as it wouldn't go as far as from here to Elsie before it was full. And we filled all the barns full. And he didn't put no fertilizer on none of it. If it did, it was a little bit, it was in the mule barn. So that was the kind of a farmer Granddaddy Richards was.
What's his, yeah. Who is he? Is he your dad's dad or your mom's dad?
Who I'm talking about?
Yeah, Richards.
That was Richards' mom's side.
Mom's dad did?
Uh-huh. His name was Jeff Richards. He was the 4th granddaddy that had come to Florida, and he settled Weewahitchka, or his great-great-great-grandfather did. Now, the one I had, my grandfather, was 4 generations down from him. And I have a copy of the, what do you do when you stay 7 years on a piece of property?
Homestead.
Yeah, homestead. I've got the homestead there that he had in 1893, Granddaddy Richards. So.
Look at him. Remember to look at him.
Oh, I'm sorry. Anyway, the land, of course, he had to stay on, I think at that time, 7 years. And the President of the United States, his signature is on that piece of paper. And that land now, and of course, the first settler that ever settled in Calhoun County was Jehu Richards. Now in Wewall, there's a cemetery named Jehu. Right over here, and before you get to Bluntstown, in Abe Springs, there's a landing there that's called Jehu. So my mom's people were here years before the McClellans. McClellan settled up in Georgia about halfway, a little more halfway up Atlanta on the main highway going up, 27. And they come down the river where Richards came to Port St. Joe, came up the Appalachia till they hit the end of Chipola. And I don't know if you guys know it, but Chipola is running into Appalachia just below Wewall. They come up that river and they settled and originally settled Weewahitchka. That's an old timer in them.
What do you know about the family tree of the McClellans?
What did he say?
When did the McClellans come here? What's the family tree on that? You said the Richards were here first. And then
well, let's go a little further. Now, Civil War. Granddaddy, Boney McClellan, our granddaddy, and his brother, Uncle Billy, they were in the Army, and they went up there, and of course, you know, that war only lasts, I think, about 2 years. But during that time, they happened to be at the surrender of Lee surrendered to Grant.
That's the Civil War now?
Civil War. Now, that's how far back they go. And, of course, George B. McClellan is a relative. Before, probably one generation before Granddaddy, George B., you know, the general that didn't do nothing.
Right, the Yankee general.
Yeah, yeah, the Yankee one. And then after the war, they came down, and evidently in Georgia, they sold out, the two brothers did, and moved to Sneed's. Now, right where I'm living now, across the highway on this side, is Uncle Billy's house, his second house. Now, of course, over here going toward Brooklyn, Granddaddy's old house, and you don't know where it was because we've been gone for years. Now, it was a house living there, and Granddaddy lived there, and he moved. Well, Dad was born in up in Georgia, just above. Anyway, up in Georgia, near where Elnita lives, and she lives in Alabama, but it's up in that area, and he would come to Cypress. Cypress Station, you know, up on 75. 75 goes all the way across the state. And he moved to Frink over here when he was 5 years old. And if you know, before you get to the schoolhouse going up over the creek, first to second road you get to, off to the right there used to be a log cabin, and that was the first schoolhouse in Calhoun, Frink School. And at that time, the reason the name Frink, the first guy that come in there and started in the turpentine industry was named Frink. So the cemetery, Granddaddy Richards, one of his grandkids probably didn't make it as a baby, and he gave that cemetery, and that baby is buried there, and it's the McClellan Cemetery. And then later on, now the Leonards owned that land, and they gave the church area as a Frink church. So that puts pretty well down in there. But our mother's family, the oldest, as I said, oldest family that ever came to Calhoun County, the Richards.
So,
okay.
Grandmother used to say that they came over on the Mayflower or something.
What?
Did they come over on the Mayflower, the Richards?
No.
Joke about that?
No. It was after that, but it was way back there. But they came over. I imagine. Now let's see. They were in the Civil War, which ended in 75, and I imagine they came over, his people did, probably 100 years before that. Incidentally, one of the governors of New York was a McClellan. Of course, a Yankee, but we're all relatives. All the McClellans are relatives.
They all came over at one time, I understand.
Okay.
Is that correct?
That's about all the story I can tell. That's enough.
Tell me a fun story about Elsie and Hattie.
I didn't get that.
Tell me a fun story about Elsie and Hattie.
Elsie?
A funny story.
Huh?
A funny story about them when they were children.
Elsie and Hattie?
Yeah, a funny story about them. You know?
Oh, let me see now. Hattie. Oh, wait a minute now. Oh. Mom and Dad was married in 1905. 1906, Jack was born. He lived 6 months, and diphtheria come through here, and I killed all the kids. Then, in 9, Hattie was born. A little after 10, Artis was born. Then in 12, Elsie was born. Then in 15, Jarrett was born. And then in 17, I was born. But when Elsie, a little flimsy thing, was a few months old, she got whooping cough. They thought she was going to die. And she was a scrawny little old thing all up till she was about 12, 14 years old. And of course, Hattie being the oldest, she took over as taking care of me. She, over the years and right on, she called me son. Because, like I said, she put more diapers on me by far than Mom did. Because Mom was the Richards farmer. She was out here planting a garden. And I've seen her out here on this land with a hoe in her hand and nothing but weeds and grass. And she'd find her a place out there and she'd chop the weeds out of a place about that big and dig a hole and reach in her pocket and get a bean or pea or something and throw in that hole. Directly she had a row. In a few weeks, gosh, look at that. Look at them things are growing. That was the kind of person she was. But Hattie, when she got up in about 9th, 10th grade, there was no 9th grade in Frink. She went to Bluntstown for a year, went to school, and then she quit. And she took lessons from, who was it give lessons? Anyway, Aunt Jane's oldest girl, Ellen. Organ lessons, and she learned how to play the organ. Elsie and Artis did learn how to play the harmonica a little bit, but he and Elsie, as the old saying is, couldn't carry a tune in a bucket as the lid was nailed on. And I come along and had a pretty good voice and sang, and I sang in school and all the way school like that. But Elsie and we've always got along good. Now, Artis and I, we never got along good. Not until we were both grown and married and had kids. Then we got along good together. But I remember when I wasn't no more than that high, he'd do something I didn't like and I'd jump on him like a tiger. And he was, of course, grown then. I mean, it didn't faze me. His size did a bit. Boy, and we was always fighting. And Mom used to beat the tar out of me because Artis resented me. And he would tell Mom something that I had done that I didn't do. Go get me a peach-free strout switch, and she beat the piss out of me. So that was our relation there, and with Hattie and Elsie, Hattie, of course, played the part of mother with me, and she always called me son. And Elsie, come along later, she and of course Jarrett, when I was 3, died. Now that was my buddy. Now he was 2 years younger than me, 15, 16, 17, yeah. He was 2 years older than me. He died. Then I was the odd size in there. So, but then when we got grown, got married, had kids, Artis and I was the best of buddies. And incidentally, I helped him get in the Coast Guard with a rating because I got in and found out at that time, if you had a talent, and he had one from tractors. He drove tractors here for the state. I got him in with a 3-year rating that I had to earn the 3 ways, because I started at the bottom. Hey, that's about a good little explanation of me. But here, looking around here, this place has changed so much, and there's rails here now. They were around the field, but not out here, and this was a picket fence. It was a picket fence. All the way here, all the way across, and right over there. And this tree here was still there then. And incidentally, the stones, where are we? Behind me? Yeah. Now that was where the kettle set. They cooked the cane juice that made syrup. Now on out there a little further, you had a cane mill. There's a big beam up here in the circle. and you turn that, and there's 3 or 4 big rollers roll together and squeeze the juice out of it. That's where that was. And about where you're standing used to be a little room there, or rather a roof, and that was the wash place where you wash your clothes. Mom, old-fashioned style of washing. Later, I gave her a washing machine. In fact, I gave her 2 or 3 washing machines when I later got into business of washing machines.
So if you want to, remember to look at him. Remember to look at him. What message do you have? You see like the younger generations here playing now. What would you like to speak to them? What would you like to tell
The younger generation?
What's your story for the younger generation?
Younger
What do you
generation?
want to say to them?
I think one of the best ones would be that as early as you can, find out what you had rather do. Go for it. Don't hip-hop around. But if you don't find one of them jobs that you like and you don't enjoy it, quit it. Go get to where you do. Because it's the worst employee you can have is a guy that's doing something that he don't like to do because he has to do it. Get out of that. You may get into one worse. If you do, don't stay. Get in another one. Get in another one. You might be come up one day and somebody say, well, that guy he just gets a job to quit. Well, he hasn't found the thing that fits him to do the right thing. Now, in my case, I found it with tools. I love to work with tools. Now, Granddaddy Richards had a big blacksmith shop, and he'd let me go in there and play with the tools. None of the other 19 grandkids he wouldn't let go in the shop even. I went in there, I knew when I picked up a tool, I could look at it, but I made sure I put it back right where I found it. But I found out that was my thing, and then I got on to a couple of jobs I didn't like. I don't like doing this. I quit. So I got into mechanics, and I ended most of my whole life right on. And today, I got 4 or 5 cars that I'm still working on, and I'm not able to, but I've got them there, and I say, well, one day I'll feel like it, I'll fix that. I'll fix it. So that would be what I'd tell for a young person. And I try to tell my grandkids the same thing. Find something you like to do, go for it. And another one, remember, a good boss, don't give you a job. A raise. You earn it. And if you'll remember, you ain't gonna get that raise until you earn it. You'll be way ahead of the game. And I've done that several times. I've been given a job, and I said, well, thanks for the raise. I didn't give you a raise. I said, what? You earned it. That's advice that I think any youngster would hang into. Do a job good enough, and don't just get a little half a shovel full of dirt. Get some on the handle.
What would you like for, like, say, my kids, or some of the other kids that are running around? What would you like them to know about our family back in those days? What would you like them to know about this place here?
Didn't get it.
Like my kids,
yeah,
and say my kids, if they watch this, what would you like them to know about this place?
Here?
Yeah.
Well, incidentally, naturally out here in the country, you didn't do much with washing your teeth. And now Artis, when he was 22, had to have all of his teeth pulled out. Now, I had mine till I was about 40. But Elsie and Hattie, Elsie's got all of hers. There's a few of these front ones bad. And Hattie had all of hers except one when she died at 99. Now, it's a sort of a blood thing, they say, in a way. But then again, they say that some of that is what you eat. Now, Artis, losing his teeth early, he loved to eat sweets. And didn't ever wash his teeth, you know what I mean? So there would be one. Try to save your teeth as long as you can. And I have another good one. If you go to a doctor, do what he says. He may not be right, but he's so much nearer right than you are. And most of the fly-by-night doctors. He knows because he had to go to school and learn it. Do what he says and don't skip a meal, a pill. Take it. And right now, I religiously take pills twice a day, and occasionally I take a pain pill and I believe in a doctor because I know what they've gone through with that I've seen over the years. So there's another one that if you want to live a long time and do good, that's another good one, is your teeth. And of course, general health. In other words, if Mom used to tell me, you're going to take some castor oil, oh, I put up a fight. And one day, I got the diarrhea so bad, I got so weak I couldn't hardly walk. And she says, you about ready for that castor oil? I said, no, Mom, I ain't going to take that stuff. She said, okay. She went on about her business. Finally, Mom, what, son? Bring me that castor oil. I learned a lesson then that Mom knew what she was talking about, but that medicine didn't taste good no matter what she talked about. Okay. All right.
The camera, I want you to say your full name, when you were born, and who you're related to. Go ahead.
Sid McClellan. Was born in Panama City in 1950. Artis and Pearl McClellan were my parents. Sherry was my sister.
Sid, I understand you amateur stage production coach.
Yes, I do. It's basically a hobby. I videotape performers. We evaluate their performance, look at the goods, the bads, and try to improve their performance. So once we videotape their performance, we play it back and they actually pantomime. So they don't have to think about the song, the chords, the words. They can actually focus on their actual stage performance. And by seeing themselves and having the music that they just played, makes it very easy for them to relate to.
That's good.
And the next question.
I forgot. I'm sorry.
Okay, and I have a specific theory about projection. Now, we've all seen performers, politicians, other people that are so dynamic that they just grab you with their speeches or performance. And I said, now why is that? And I figured it out. It all comes down to chemistry. If you think about your high school chemistry, you have the nucleus, which is the center of the atom, and then you have the electron that circles around the atom, or the nuclei. And in nature, all these rotating bodies are in perfect symmetry. For instance, uranium has 32 electrons, and if you'll look at it, all of them are perfectly, mathematically rotating around the nucleus. So, to really project and be effective, what you do is, with your subconscious mind, if you can move the nucleus just slightly out of the rotation of the electrons, the whole field around every molecule is altered. Instead of it being a circle, now it's elliptical. And with this elliptical orbit, you've got millions of these molecules in your body, and they're all projecting out. And since this is an unnatural situation in nature, we are perceiving an electronic message that is like no other, because it does not happen in nature. So, how do we move the nucleus out of center of the rotating electrons? Well, we as human beings are the only one that have that ability, and you do it with your subconscious mind. So, as a performer, a musical performer, you can't consciously move the center of the atom. You have to allow your subconscious mind to do it. As a performer, your conscious mind has to keep up with chords, words, timing. So, you have to train your subconscious mind to slightly alter the center of the nucleus.
What process do you use to train your mind?
Just knowing the concept, you can actually do it yourself. But I work with people and I use subliminal suggestions. So it's a form of hypnotism, but not like you see on TV.
Almost like meditation.
It's very similar to meditation. So if I was working with a client, I would help them develop their subconscious mind and train it to do this on command.
It's more or less like getting your stage presence locked in and then go to stage.
That's right. So once you alter the energy field around every molecule in your body, the projection is flowing out there into the universe, and it's a energy that people are not accustomed to perceiving, and it's highly effective.
Basically what gives the stars, performers, the stars, the actors and all, gives them that edge.
That is the edge. They just don't know it. And some people can naturally do it, but we can all do it. And just by knowing the concept, you can do it yourself. So, if you want to project, move those electrons, and you'll find happiness.
Oh.
I've been on this side.
Interviewed.
First time on this side of the camera.
All right, you ready?
Okay, here's your question. I understand you went to see the Dalai Lama some time ago. All right, go ahead.
I understand you went to see the Dalai Lama some time ago.
Yes, I did. Years ago, I was working in the Persian Gulf in the oil field. I was there for months and months. My team went back ahead of me, and so I was stuck there still working, and they gave me a ticket to
fly back to America. So I went to the airport and I decided, I'm just going to take the first flight that leaves. I don't care where it goes. So as it turned out, the next flight out of Saudi Arabia was to Nepal. There I'm going, I'm heading for Kathmandu. So I get to Kathmandu, and every morning the Dalai Lama walks this particular path up to the temple to pray. And hundreds and sometimes even thousands of people will line the streets just to watch the Dalai Lama walk by. Once you get, the streets are real dirty, so everybody stands. So up near the palace, everybody sits for the Dalai Lama to walk by. So I'm one of the many, many people sitting in the entrance to the temple. And as the Dalai Lama walks by, he looks directly at me and says, "Come back tomorrow." I'm appalled. The Dalai Lama never speaks to anybody. And to have the Dalai Lama even speak to you or his shadow pass upon you is considered an honor. And here he's made a direct statement to me, "Come back tomorrow." So I leave, and I was very uncomfortable. Just because he spoke to me, now people are following me. I'm feeling like, kind of like a rock star, but I know how they feel. People are following you, they're watching what you're doing. So the next day, I decide, well, I'm going to sit somewhere else because I really didn't like this attention. I was there to be incognito, unnoticed. I even dressed in local clothes. So I sat in a very much different spot. Here comes the Dalai Lama. When he passes me, he looks directly at me and says, "Come back tomorrow." I'm really shocked now and quite paranoid. I leave, and what happens that day is a whole different story. Quite an involved story. So the third day, I said, well, he already has picked me out. I'm just going to go back to my original spot on the third day. Maybe he just won't notice me and it'll all be kind of over. I'm tired of the notoriety, the people following me. If I touch an apple and don't take it, people rush over and try to grab it like I'm something. I'm just a tourist, oil field worker. So on the third day, he spots me again and says, "Come back tomorrow." It's getting to be almost frightening because I go to a restaurant, people are crowding around you. A blind man gave me a coin. The poorest blind man, the lowest totem pole in the city, gives me one of his coins. That made me very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So the fourth day, I go back. He spots me again and of course says, "Come back tomorrow." When I get back to my hotel, the elder of the city, the richest man in town, came to me and said, "I would like for you to give my daughter a child." I'm aghast. What would you do? Can I turn him down? It was a very perplexing situation. What would you do? Thank goodness the fifth day is my last day in town. Maybe he'll just recognize me and I can leave town without being noticed. I'm sitting in my normal spot in the temple with all the other people. Now, all the other people that had sat around me before, the exact same people were there. For some reason, like the crowd would open up and these same people would sit around me, and I'm third row back. The Dalai Lama approaches and he looks directly at me and he says, "Why do you waste your time sitting? You already know the answer." I'm aghast. It's time for me to get on the plane and leave within hours. Years later, I realized the Dalai Lama was correct. We all have the answer. We're just sitting and wasting time. That was my experience.
What was your answer?
The answer is, we all know the answer. We're just sitting and wasting our time. That was what the Dalai Lama's answer was, story was. Thank you.